So let's go into a demo. In this demo, we're going to create the storage resources for our Unity VSA necessary to continue on with the rest of this course. In order to add storage, we start by logging into the VMware ESXi interface. We then select our EMC Unity VSA that we're working with. In this case, it's test-SAN01, and we want to add an additional hard disk. You'll notice in the storage area, it indicates that we have 3 disks available. Those are the current operating system disks for the Unity VSA. We want to add an additional hard disk specifically for user-based data. So let's click on Edit Settings. The Edit Settings dialog will display with the current configuration of the machine. What we want to do at this point is we want to add a hard disk. So in the upper left-hand corner, we click on the Add Hard Disk button, then select New Hard Disk. If we had an existing user hard disk available, we could utilize the existing hard disk option, but in our case, we do not. You'll notice it creates a new entry for a new hard disk. So let's expand that, and we'll scroll to see our options that are available. In our case, what we want to do is we want to make a 66 gig hard disk for our user data. It's kind of an odd number, but it's going to help us identify that particular hard disk. Once we've set our hard disk capacity, we want to click Browse for the location. If you remember, when we originally set up the Unity VSA, we created a data store for the operating system and a data store for the user data. So we want to change to the VSA underscore data underscore DS01 data store for us to add our hard disk to. Once we've selected it, we'll click OK. Notice the maximum size updated based on the location that we selected. Next, under disk provisioning, the recommended configuration is thick provisioned, eagerly zeroed. What this does is it gives us the best performance for this particular hard disk, and we don't have to worry about it being thin provisioned. We'll go ahead and provision all capacity, all space, and then zero it so you're able to write data to it faster. Shares, we're going to leave this at normal. We have the option to take it to a lower share value, or basically a quality of service for that disk, how quick data can be pulled from it or put to it. If we wanted to, we could apply a higher value by changing it to high. Leaving it at normal where it is today is what we're going to do. We could also limit the IOPS that this particular hard disk was capable of. We're not going to change this today, but if you wanted to, you could change the values here to limit or control the IOPS that that particular hard disk could provide. The virtual device node. This is our SCSI controller or IDE controller. It's basically our disk-based controller for this virtual machine. It defaults to IDE controllers. If you select an IDE controller, you will have problems booting your virtual machine. The Unity VSA does not interact well with an IDE controller. So make sure you select SCSI controller 1 here, and then let it automatically fill in the SCSI number to the right-hand side. Lastly, the disk mode is set to dependent. Dependent is the only disk mode that we should utilize when adding a hard disk to the Unity VSA, because the other options will cause issues with connectivity to the storage. Once we've made our selections, we will go ahead and click Save. Depending on the size of the disk and the speed of your equipment, the creation of that hard disk could take a short amount of time or a very long amount of time, depending. It's going to be variable based on your environment. We can tell the disk has been added by the fact that under recent tasks it shows that it was successful, and we can also see that the storage here indicates that we have 4 disks now available to us. We're now done with the VMware ESXi interface. We can go to the Unisphere interface and add the disks to the virtual appliance. From the EMC Unity VSA Unisphere interface, we want to select the settings icon in the upper right hand corner. What this is going to do is display all the settings for our virtual machine. We're going to go into the storage configuration at this point to locate the disk that we've added. Once you've clicked on storage configuration, click on spare disks, and this will be where all disks are listed that have been made available to this virtual machine. Notice our virtual disk 4 has been added and is available for us to consume. Let's go ahead and click Close and create a storage pool out of the available disks. From the menu on the left, click on Pools. From the Pools menu, you'll notice that we don't have any storage pools currently available. We want to click on the plus symbol in the toolbar, and that will launch the Create Pool wizard. When the Create Pool wizard displays, we're presented with a listing of items on the left-hand side that we will walk through as part of this wizard. We start with the name and description. We're going to name this Storage Pool 1. We can add a description if we wish, and in a production environment, I would highly suggest doing so to understand why a pool exists. Let's click Next to continue. You're presented with a tier assignment screen. On this screen, you have made available the different storage tiers that might apply to this particular virtual disk. If we click on the edit icon next to a storage tier, we have the ability to select which type of storage tier this belongs to. Since this is a virtual disk, it isn't able to automatically detect the type of disk that's on the back side of this particular virtual machine. So this is a capacity tier. So we're going to select capacity tier from the storage tier. If we have a storage array that is able to push up the performance capabilities of that particular storage, it would be presented here, and that storage tier would have been automatically selected. Now that we have our storage tier selected, let's click Next. In the storage tier section, we have the ability to select the storage tier we want to apply this particular virtual disk to. So let's go ahead and select the capacity tier and click Next. We're then presented with the virtual disks that we want to add to this capacity tier. If we had added multiple virtual disks, we could select them all here. Since we only added a single disk, it's already pre-selected. We're going to click Next to continue. If you're going to use VMware vVols in your environment, it's important to go ahead and create a VMware capability profile for this pool. Since this particular pool is going to be set up for block and file storage only, we are not going to consume vVols. We're not going to make the configuration change here. But you would simply select the checkbox, add a name and a description if you chose to utilize this for vVols. Let's click Next to continue. We're presented with a summary. You'll see that all the selections that we made previously are displayed here for us to confirm. Let's click Finish to continue. You'll notice on the results screen you have a running status. Currently it's at 0% complete. It'll take a varying amount of time based on your configuration in order for this task to complete. Once it is finished and at 100%, we can go ahead and click Close to exit this Create Pool wizard. Now that we're back at the Storage Pool screen, you'll notice Storage Pool 1 has been created.